Record. Headphones on.
Apparently I've got 2 petitions now.
Okay, it's on now.
So I've copied and pasted the things from the standing orders.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so when I use
Okay, should I turn it back on now?
we need to add their names
for what?
to the petition.
Nah, I wouldn't.
And usually it's just like,
Yeah, and then just make it all like, you don't have to have it bolded.
that a petition be received
Yeah, regarding,
regarding.
or like, so it'd be like that council received petition blah 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 regarding da da da. Like that's just the options of, we always start our resolutions with that council.
Yeah, but you can't see on the big screen inside the room.
It just depends whether they can go, whether you want
Okay,
it
that's-
to be received only, or whether you want it to be received and referred to the CEO. So there's different options that you can choose.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Ordinary Council meeting. I declare the Ordinary meeting of 29 January 2025 open at 9:01 a.m. I advise members of the public this meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council standing orders. Councillors and staff are reminded of their responsibilities under their respective codes of conduct, both inside the meeting and when dealing externally on behalf of Council. On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today and pay my respect to elders past and present. We recognise their deep and enduring connection to country, and we extend our respect and gratitude for their wisdom and culture. Welcome councillors, WRC staff, members of the public and the media. Acknowledge this is the first meeting for 2025 and from myself I'd like to extend you all well wishes for a prosperous year ahead and also acknowledge Chinese New Year today. So I think going absolutely, so I think with that comes prosperity for all in our community. Okay, moving on to our first item, which is item number 1, apologies or leaves of absence. We've got no recorded apologies for today's meeting. Item number 2, condolences. Are there any councillors that wish to acknowledge any recently deceased members of the community? Councillor Finlay.
Thanks, Mayor, and obviously respect all members of the community that have passed away. I'd just like to pass on a couple of comments on a couple of the people that have passed away over since our last meeting. And one is Horace Paul. Horace just recently passed away at the age of 99. He was actually a World War II vet, and he enlisted when he was 16 and signed the papers and got through the criteria of not being 18, but anyway, the way he went. Horace, his ancestors come from Vanuatu, and his father was the last of the black earning members from Vanuatu that actually passed away in Melbourne. And also, when we had Behind the Cane, which was a musical production that was produced by the Queensland Music Festival, and the story of that was behind the Vanuatu people, how they came to Australia. Mr. Hall, he was the one that they got the information out of to write the script for the show. So yeah, just in honour of Mr. Paul there, and also Daryl Paul as well. Daryl, he was a police community liaison officer from Bowen, very much involved with the children and everything like that as well. And the connection between Daryl Paul and Mr. Paul, that Daryl's father was also the brother of Mr. Paul. So just like to acknowledge those. Also, Pastor Gary Erickson, he was a former employee of Bowen Shire Council back in the day, local DJ as well, and a bit of a character as well. June Hathaway from long-term resident of Colesworth, and also unfortunately the passing of a young person as well. And Mr. Mayor, it's important that the council and the community continue to support organisations that are helping with counselling and the prevention of that unfortunate issue that we have with young people in our society.
Thank you, Councillor Finlay. Any further councillors there? On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the recently departed of the Whitsundays region and offer our sincere condolences to their families and loved ones. Could you all please join me in standing for a minute silence? Please be seated, everyone. Thank you. Okay, item number 3, which is confirmation of our previous minutes. Please have a move. Councillor Bowman, second Councillor Wright. Any question or discussion on that one? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, business arising. Would any councillor like to raise any business arising from the previous meeting? No? Okay, we'll move on to number 5, which is a mayoral minute. There is no mayoral minute for this meeting. Item number 6, notice of motion. No notice of motion have been received for this meeting. Item number 7, deputations. We've received no deputation requests for this meeting. Item number 8, petitions and questions on notice. Does any council have a petition they wish to put to the table? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have a petition here from over 20 residents in relation to the tree clearing that took place over Christmas on Scenic Ridge Drive. I'd like to move that this petition be received and referred to the CEO for consideration and that a report be brought back to council.
Second, Councillor Clifford, moved Councillor Bowman, second Councillor Clifford. The motion that the petition be received, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, through the chair. Mr Mayor, I too have received a petition from Collinsville residents regarding Collinsville and Scottsville residents regarding the flying fox situation. So a number of residents have taken part, so I'd just like to lay this on the table and ask that the CEO please look into this.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, you've moved to receive the petition. Do I have a seconder? Second, Councillor Simpson. The motion that Council received the Flying Fox petition, I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we had no questions on notice from the previous meeting. Moving on to our next item, which is questions from the public gallery. Mr CEO, you have some questions received there?
So we have 3 questions that have been received. I'd like to invite Amy Smith to come forward and to read her question.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak at the Bowen Council Chambers. I asked for my husband John Smith to stand beside me today to display a gift that we have brought to give to Whitsunday Regional Council. The gift is a lino print, which I produced several years ago of a rainforest tree. It is entitled Stairway to Healing. I am Amy Smith, a mother of 2 children, a wife, an artist, and a practice manager of an occupational therapy service. My family and I are residents of Hamilton Avenue, adjacent to Lot 205. Broad-scale clearing occurred during the Christmas holiday season of 2024-2025. We purchased our home in 2015 under the impression that MSCS, Matters of Environmental Significance, Category B vegetation, offered a level of protection as a designated green zone. The purchase was also made with the impression that Whitsunday Regional Council was working in accordance with sustainability and planning, having a green zone amongst residential homes with what appeared to be relatively high-density trees, as was Lot 201 Scenic Ridge Drive. For the last 10 years, we have enjoyed the wildlife that lived in the area, particularly the tranquility of the trees, the resident goannas who frequented our garden regularly, as well as the bird life. It was an absolute shock to us and other adjacent residents when heavy machinery arrived on the site in question and started to bulldoze the area. As none of us had received notification that these works were going to commence over the Christmas period, the shock of witnessing the demolition of a private natural space has created a sense of solidarity amongst us all. We have been grieving the loss of flora and fauna which have been removed. Although we are not here to blame the works for causing personal illness, It seemed hardly a coincidence that within days of this large-scale clearing, my 7-year-old son and I, who both suffer from asthma, developed symptoms of respiratory illness. I was also born with tracheoesophageal fistula, a congenital condition which raises my vulnerability to some respiratory issues. Our conditions have been well managed for the past 2 years, so it's highly probable that increased pollen and dust and air pollution from bulldozing triggered this instance of respiratory illness. Christmas is a cultural and religiously important time of year, and these health concerns are compounded with the noise of trees being felled by heavy machinery and the trauma of witnessing deforestation of what we consider the green zone. All this contributed to significantly increased stress levels and created a somber atmosphere during times of family gatherings which were intended to be joyful. We live above the cleared site, so our stress continues with the uncertainty of how the stabilisation of the land will be managed, and could be liable for the cost of managing the stability of the land should erosion and storm water drainage problems occur. This uncertainty is perpetuating stress amongst adjacent residents who purchased their homes adjacent to the site, in part due to the tranquility and privacy the green zone offered, as well as the natural drainage for managing issues such as land stability. The perpetuating stress seems unjust, given that the zoning of the site has appeared to be somewhat misleading, i.e., being listed as MSES, Matters of Environmental Significance, Category B vegetation, yet somehow being zoned residential for decades and granted a perpetual approval with no review or expiry date. I acknowledge that decisions made within Council are complex and challenging, meeting diverse community needs. However, the environment underpins all of community activity and industry, and therefore ought to be the number one priority considered throughout all the complex issues that the Whitsunday Regional Council serves. There seems to be incongruence between the information presented in Whitsunday Regional Council's policies and procedures regarding climate change and the actions witnessed at this site. This incongruence and the manner that the proceedings have occurred at Lot 201 have eroded the trust and confidence of adjacent residents with Whitsunday Regional Council's management of environmental protection. Stresses associated with climate change are real for people, and having a sense of trust and confidence in those in positions of power to implement plans to mitigate, manage, and limit climate change are of utmost importance to the community. There needs to be a genuine sense that government agencies care for the future of our children and the grandchildren of this world. Proceedings at the site in question and our subsequent meeting with the Whitsunday Regional Council have not installed the sense of genuine care, apart from the contributions of Craig Barman, Councillor for Division 2, who has been empathetic, supportive and generous with his constructive contributions. Thank you, Craig. Whitsunday Conservation Council have also been an invaluable source of support with constructive contributions. During neighbourly conversations, it became obvious that we were not alone in our concerns for the apparent social and environmental injustice of what was being conducted at the site. We dedicated hours of our Christmas holiday time to advocating for the shared concerns of adjacent residents. Although we chose to advocate for adjacent residents, initiating the petition dated the 27th of December 2024, the point is, these matters ought to have been handled in a way that community members do not feel compelled to use their Christmas holiday time for community activism, as is what happened to us. The time required for community engagement to address these issues, as well as the transference of collective stress, has impacted on my work attendance. My immune system was likely compromised by stress, making me more vulnerable to contractable illness and resulting in me being diagnosed with atypical pneumonia a few weeks ago. A simple letter notifying us of the worst may have helped to manage our family health issues, during a significant holiday period. Many community residents would prefer a letter rather than releasing personal information to yet another online database due to cybersecurity risks and issues. As it is, I was unable to work for a fortnight due to stresses and health impacts associated with the clearing of the site. As a sole trader and practice manager of an occupational therapy service, this has significant clinical and financial impacts to the service that I offer the Whitsunday community. Even today, my husband and I have had to have another day off work to address these matters. My mother had to adjust her life arrangements to travel from Mackay, where she lives, and stay overnight with us to transport our children to school this morning. Without this extended family support, which not all families have, we would have been too late to attend this meeting for today. We are here today to bring Whitsunday Regional Council's attention to how the impact of their actions, or lack thereof, can directly have on members of their community and the environment. Question. We ask what action Whitsunday Regional Council will take to address our concerns and to ensure that in the future, no one else is subjected to the stress and trauma experienced by adjacent residents, or to the environmental degradation which has occurred at Lot 201 Scenic Bridge Drive, Campbell. Specifically, how will Whitsunday Regional Council transparently reflect what is a protected green zone? And how can we be assured that current green zoning is in fact protected from development? As stated previously, listing the site as MSES Matters of Environmental Significance, Category B vegetation, seems to have created confusion amongst the real estate agents who sold residents their properties, as well as residents who did their due diligence researching the area at the time of purchase. Finally, would the Whitsunday Regional Council consider revegetating Lot 201 Scenic Bridge Drive? I understand this would not be easy. However, nothing is impossible. Where there is a will, there is a way. I see this daily in my work, in my clinical work as an occupational therapist. It is not too late to make a healthy choice. There are no houses constructed yet on the site. Nature matters, particularly in a World Heritage Great Barrier Reef site, where the Whitsunday Regional Council and local businesses market themselves as the heart of the reef. With the remainder of my time allocation today, I would appreciate if we could all listen to the song entitled Weafu by Kuruma Yanakinga in remembrance of the loss of nature at Lot 201 Scenic Bridge Drive. Is that possible today? And thank you very much for your time, God bless. Would that be allowed?
We've probably reached the limit of what we would normally allow, but we thank you for your question.
And would you like to receive this gift? The intent was to display it somewhere within a planning and sustainability space as a visual reminder of where our priorities ought to be.
Yep, we'll hopefully receive your gift. Thank you for the gesture.
Thank you for the time today.
Mr. Seager?
So we've also received a second request from Jeanette Walters to read her questions.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jen Walters and I'm a business owner in Penvale, and I've lived in my house since 2015 in Daydream Court. We purchased our home, which at the time had one neighbour and was surrounded by bushland from the back veranda and overlooked the valley down to Parker Road. There were a few homes on Parker Road, Scarlet Gum, Scenic Ridge and down into the valley of Twin Creeks Estate. We were told by the realtor that the 1.46 hectares of native bushland on our side boundary was a nature strip and would never be developed because it was the natural drainage for Hamilton Avenue, Whitehaven Crescent and Brook Close. Our due diligence showed it was a green area. We lived in a tranquil natural setting, then progress came and there has been non-stop building since.
The noise, the dirt, the scarring on the landscape. I understand that it's a necessity in the growing area, but have wondered if the changing environment was for the better. My morning routine was to have a cuppa, going out onto my veranda to enjoy the natural surroundings and wildlife. Often I water my side garden, which would entice the birds and butterflies to come in from the nature strip. Wash their wet wings and have a drink. We have fed and put water out on hot days for the birds, kookaburras, goannas, animals, the cuckoo pheasants, most of which I have not seen since Christmas. The nests were decimated and the animal life has disappeared. Where did that go now? This was my piece before I went to work. Over Christmas, I woke to the thumping of machinery which began on Sundays at 7 a.m. I often developed a headache, which we would leave home to escape the noise. My husband calls it the bomb crater. The horrendous clearing has made it ugly, except for 4 trees, one a widowmaker, which will destroy 3 homes if it snaps because it is completely exposed now. We have no shelter from the sun at all. Now it pours 3/4 of the way into the lounge room and kitchen, raising the temperature by a further 10 degrees. During this heat wave period, we've had to shut our doors to keep out the noise and dust, and when we returned to our house it was unbearable. If we had been notified that this clearing was to progress, we might have been able to prepare installing screens and blinds. Not easy to achieve over a holiday period. The councils do extend this courtesy in other regions. The nature strip used to come up to my side fence and was 4 metres from where I stood on my veranda watching wildlife. It provided shelter and a haven from the sun and cyclones and was very much appreciated. Now it's gone. I realise that we as owners can do nothing. But by voicing to council the changes that have been forced upon my way of life, I'm hoping that our regional council will become proactive in keeping development of nature areas to a minimum in the future. I am trusting that the council members will show foresight to the overdevelopment of natural bushland areas. And my question, how much natural bushland is cleared each year in the Whitsundays, and how much is remaining in the residential areas? Relating directly to this 1.46 hectare area, I am trusting that there will be minimal development allowed. This will assist all of my concerned neighbours in being able to enjoy the natural slopes and contours of the land, hopefully with renewed landscaping to encourage our local animal, birds and flora to return. The traffic noise arising from Parker Road Valley should not be added to further. Minimum housing development needs to be called for. Stage 3 of the Grove is underway, and as each unit usually has 2 cars these days, the amount of traffic will be increasing tenfold again. Driving out of Hamilton Avenue and the Grove onto Abel Road can be quite dangerous. Question. At the time that the development of the nature strip was approved, and any further changes such as the number of residential dwellings on it, was the additional traffic from the Grove and stages 1, 2 and 3 taken into account? Question. Will our council plan for the future and implement laws to notify adjoining property owners of future developments? Your constituents deserve this. The dirt bowl is devoid of all animals, wildlife and flora, gone from the Whitsundays. Thank you for giving this matter your attention.
Thank you, Jane.
Just received a third letter for a question for us from Eleanor Biro. She's asked that I just read the question. She wants management of land and the prevention of erosion costs, including drainage and stormwater issues arising from our property. Will the developer be liable to install retaining walls to stabilise the land, or will it be the new property owners in years to come to do this? Second question is, we request the Whitsunday Regional Council to address these immediate issues and future problems that may occur due to the mass clearing of Lot 201 Scenic Ridge Drive property. How can this be called best practice that Council has allowed within the current WRC policies, planning and operational works regarding climate change within our region. So our process is to work through each of those questions diligently over the next period of time and to provide a formal response back to each of the people provided, and then to actually include that in our minutes of the next available meeting.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and I'd like to thank the members of the public that have come today to actually present their questions. It is appreciated, and I think hearing you speak so passionately about the issue does have some meaningful impact for us. I will accept your kind gift.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to item number 10 is our committee's reports, which we have none for this meeting. Item number 11, which is our officers' reports. First, item number 11.1. Sorry, Councillor Collins.
Yeah, I've received advice this morning from the esteemed Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Bradshaw, and he's told me that I've actually have a prescribed conflict of interest in this, as my wife and my business supplies products to this company, so I'll just leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah.
Okay, item 11.1 is the development application for a material change of use hotel extension at the 70 to 82 Main Street, Proserpine, also known as the Metropole Hotel. Moved Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Wright. Director McGaffin, would you like to present on this?
Mr. Mayor, if I get the overheads provided.
This one, yeah?
Yeah, just the overheads, PowerPoint presentation. That's the perhaps, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the proposal before us is the land use that you would expect in the centre zone, very important. It's an extension of the existing Metropole Hotel. It is providing approval to expand the hotel and go into the retail premises next door that the hotel has purchased. In essence, what it is a big garden out the back. At the moment, the area is a typical car park out the back. It has access into the rear of the Metropole Hotel. And the aim is to provide a larger area. There are several significant trees. There are some significant trees in the car park. It should provide a very good ambience if it's developed well. The reason it's before council is that the applicants are able to provide the required number of car parks. So the proponent did an assessment and has given us a copy of the investigation they've done over several days, which basically says the peak period for parking for existing uses and hotel tends to be Friday afternoon. Other than that, there is plenty of space available within close proximity of the Metropole to cater for effectively the additional floor space, which is the beer garden out the back. Yep, so that you can see the location of the beer garden. It's not an extensive area. At the moment it has room for car parking and bins and things like that. So that'll be tidied up. You can see, further in the car park area there are allocations where the bins will be going to make it easy for them to pick up. Car parking will be formalised, but in essence they just don't provide sufficient car parks in compliance with the planning scheme requirements. So on the face of it, we believe that there is sufficient parking in the close proximity to cater for all of the existing uses and this expansion into a beer garden. So the proposal is recommended for approval.
Comments, councillors? Councillor Simpson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I support this application, although there's a few car parks short. Most of their business times are Friday nights and on the weekends, where you'll drive through the Prossie on the Saturday or Sunday and there's no cars within Cooey sometimes. But so yeah, I support even during the week. The car parks, the existing ones they have, are probably taken up by business owners up the main street.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that, Councillor Simpson. I think the project revitalises, I guess, a key part of Proserpine there, and I think seeing some of our commercial buildings there get a new lease on life is a positive thing. Agree. I think probably principal time of use is there. We typically see that the streets surrounding are quite quiet, particularly at night and the weekends there. And that can really cover for the parking requirement. Do we have any further comments, councillors? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did drop in last Wednesday. I left the briefing 3:30 in the afternoon that the car park was full and there were 5 vehicles parked within the proposed beer garden. Fairly well utilised, 2 available on the block street parking outside. So I think we went through this with the previous pub. We want to see Proserpine move ahead. Just a question first, within these 12 parking lots short and ensuring that the business stays viable, was the beer garden taken into account, the new building, the pub and the bottle shop? Because we know within that car park lot people pull up there to go into the bottle shop.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the car parking allocation, what we've looked at is the additional onus for parking as a result of the expansion. So it isn't feasible to go back and say the hotel and the floor space that they use really requires a lot more car parking. Instead of being 12 short, they might be 30 short. At the moment they are operating. We haven't had many complaints about parking in the area. So what we've done is looked at the expansion and the requirement of car parking that provides or that needs.
Thank you. So I think we do want to see the businesses grow and Proserpine move ahead, develop. If we keep coming up with every limited lot there, 12 short on car parks, what's our long-term plan moving ahead with Proserpine? We've got 2 small parking areas, council areas with within there, but how do we manage this in the long-term planning for Proserpine?
Through Mr. Mayor, in the short term we will manage it by looking at each application and assessing that on the parking. In this instance, the proponents did a survey, which is a contemporary survey of current times. Longer term, if we find that through the local laws and the issuing of car parking infringements that there is a need to look at more detail about how we control, whether it be hours or loading bays or things like that, we're happy to do that. But at the moment, I'd suggest that the evidence isn't there that there is a car parking problem in Proserpine and we need to be looking at some sort of control in the locations or the hour, 15-minute hour provisions. So if and when the car parking infringements and the complaints get so high, we will need to look at it and we will look at it on a town-wide basis.
Thank you, Director. Anything further on this one, councillors? Okay. I Right. The motion that council approve the development application for material change of use at 70 to 82 Main Street, Proserpine, also known as the Metro Hotel. Put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Please let Councillor Collins. Back, Councillor, the motion to approve the development application was carried. Item 11.2, development application for material change of use, short-term accommodation, 22 Cara Crescent.
Move to refuse.
Move to refuse, Councillor Clifford. Second, Councillor Bowman. Director McGaffin, would you like to speak to the item?
While we're finding that, the director a question, please.
Sure.
They have actually been operating this property as short-term accommodation over Christmas. Clearly, they don't have an approval to do so. Why? How?
For me, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware if you'd like to leave a formal complaint with us that we can process that, investigate it. It's no different to a lot of the compliance that we do. As you know, we receive numerous complaints about people operating, whether it be a local business, whether it be short-term accommodation, and once we get a complaint, we will follow it up.
My point is that if they're behaving like this without an approval, what's going to happen when and if they do get an approval?
We got the presentation from the director there, ready to go.
The presentation on TV, so by chance.
Very good IT.
Okay. Three little.
Is it not working?
Yeah, we just want to go back one slide.
to this time.
Yep.
Yeah, this gives you an idea about where the locality is, the top of the crescent. Access is going up the court pole. There is issues with parking in the area. The council will be aware, given that it's the notional entrance to the Great Whitsunday Walk and Honey Eater. So often we have parking problems up there. At the end of the day, the proposal provides the required number of car parkings under the scheme. In essence, it is one of two dwellings on the site. There is probably corporate. It does, as you can see from the aerial photos, it's a typical residential zone. There are some vacant lots. And it is a low density residential zone.
Question on that slide.
Councillor
Thanks, Director. Just on the previous slide, the vacant lots that are beside there, are they also accessing off that small easement that services this duplex?
No, there's a separate access off the court for those lots.
Thank you.
So the access to those vacant lots is off the common property.
Yeah, it's a separate entrance, separate gate. So it's boarded up at the moment.
Thanks.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, through the mayor. Director, now just having a look at the Google Earth, like I sort of assess these applications on their own merit, like I do keep an open mind generally. Just this one in particular though, the parking does bother me a little bit, particularly with the shared driveway. And there's definitely no on-street parking whatsoever. I'm just a bit concerned that if we do approve this one today, we're definitely going to have problems with it. So, yeah, just assessing this one on its own merits. I think, yeah, this is not suitable location, and yeah, I will be supporting the refusal today.
Thank you. When you look at the Google map up there, there are 5 STAs already there. There is no on-street parking, and our director is going to get my yellow lines reinstated that have faded over the decades. And I believe that the owner of the property's cars are actually parked in the car park, in the designated car park. So the only place for them visitors to park is actually across the driveway and in the street.
All right, we're going to let the director
Sorry.
finish his presentation. Reserve any further commentary till the end.
Yeah, so it's one of 2 dwellings on the property, 4 bedrooms, as you would expect from a normal dwelling. Next one, thanks, please. 32 low density residential properties in Cara, got 4 approved. Short-term accommodation, 54 within the vicinity of the wider Ellen Beach area. Thanks, mate. 2 submissions have been received. I also understand that there was a submission that some councils might have received late yesterday as well. That is from an existing submitter. So we will take that on board and respond to that. They are, in my mind, sort of the typical concerns and questions that council's been getting in regard to short-term accommodation in the area, and probably more focused on the fact that it is part of the body corporate and the implications of that. But again, talking about the duties and responsibilities of property managers and the ability to rectify any concerns. Number of SDAs in the area, the behaviour and parking are all sort of standard reasons that we receive from people that are concerned about short-term accommodation. So the issue here, Mr Mayor, while I take on board the comments from Councillor Wright and Councillor Clifford, the issue isn't necessarily about are they going to park in the wrong spot. The issue that we are required to address is does it comply with the planning scheme. The requirements of the planning scheme are that, there's a process to go through which we're in at the moment. The parking is identified in the planning scheme. It complies with that. Yes, parking in the court bowl of Scarlet Court is next to impossible. There is one spot just around from the access to this property to the whole court bowl, because all the other areas of the court bowl are taken up by access to the property. So if anybody came and was unable to park either in the garage or in the driveway, they would have to park further down Cara where parking is allowed. Now, yes, that would be a walk up, but as long as they park legally, there's very little we can do. While I acknowledge there might be people parking in the wrong spot, the difficulty is that my comment to you would be it would be unwise to refuse an application on the basis that someone might park in the common property and not in the driveway, because when you get to assessing it against the planning scheme, that's more a management issue. The benefit of having an approval in place is you have those conditions in place that manages the behaviour and the operation of the short-term accommodation. So at the moment we don't have that. Yes, if it's operating, it's illegal, and we have a compliance regime that we will go through, and we go through when we get these sorts of complaints. So, Mr Mayor, Council will also need some reasons behind a refusal, because it's against the officer's report. There will be a need for that.
Thank you, Director. Would you like to articulate that?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the director a question. Did the body corporate actually agree to this?
My understanding is that no, the body corporate haven't agreed to it, but then the body corporate laws are another set of administrative rules that are managed by the body corporate. and it's not an act or anything that the council imposes. So in this instance, the operator will need to get approval from council and from anybody else that he needs to get approval for. And your example is the body corporate, and he will need, well, he or she, the applicant will need to confront that issue with the body corporate, but it's nothing that comes into the ability for council to register.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree with the director that we need to base this on planning decisions, but as I've stated before, our planning scheme does include the character and amenity of the low residential zone. To clarify that a little bit more, in the proposed amendment we're discussing later today, we're actually putting in a definition of residential amenity, which is the characteristics and qualities of an area that contribute to a resident's living condition, health, well-being and overall enjoyment of their dwelling and neighbourhood. I think as that amendment's been moved towards and got entered into state review, it shows an intent from this council that even with us creating areas for short-term accommodation, it's not free range, that we do need to look at each development individually. We've got a duplex with very limited access. Does that meet the current requirements of our planning scheme? I don't believe so.
I'm in agreement with the councillor Bowman. I think having seen the site there, yes, parking's an issue, but I think the bigger issue there is the configuration of the two dwellings and the impact that it will have on the dwelling that sits behind there, and I do agree that is an amenity issue. That in any unfortunate circumstance they're going to be copying it first and foremost. So I acknowledge this is in the area that we do want to see short-term accommodation continue in our tourism precinct, but it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and in this case this one doesn't fit there. So thank you. Councillor Finlay.
Fair, just I guess a bit of clarification first from the CEO. So we've got a motion on the books here to refuse this application, and as the director has said, we need to have some information to support that. If we had moved the officer's recommendation and that got voted down, do we have to have reasons for voting against?
Something.
So you don't necessarily need rules for putting it down, but then you would actually have to have a motion. So you can't have no decision. So you need to then have a decision. When you had the decision, it would have been then to refuse the application, subject to the application. So someone would have had to move. Once that first decision was made, a similar one to this. And in terms of reasons, we do need to have reasons in relation to it. So just getting the team to have a quick look at that. If I could move for a second and just make sure that they're okay with the actual motion before it's voted.
So we've discussed amenity there. Is that sufficient?
I think it's
Yes, Councillor Cook.
I think it's to do with the like corporate having due concern for the immediate neighbours and the proliferation of them in this concentrated little area will impact on the other residents up there as well. It doesn't always, but this is like a low density residential area. It's not the early bowl, so to speak, where we've got the pubs and the clubs and what have you. So it is low density.
Director McGovern.
Mr. Mayor, my suggestion, rather than scramble now, would council be in mind to put it on hold till the next meeting. We'll come back with reasons as per the discussion that we've had.
Have we got some? At the moment, it appears that we've just got a refusal. The reasons for the refusals are, I would say, the inadequacy in relation to parking and the impacts on the character and amenity. That seems to be the issues that get raised. Council's okay with that, we obviously.
Did you have anything to add, Councillor Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, offer up just the overarching one, that the development does not comply with the Whitsunday planning scheme, strategic intent, purpose and overall outcomes of the low density residential code, which gives us some planning basis to the reasoning removals. We can also talk to the specific, but another option as well is to add that conditions of approval cannot be imposed to address the non-compliances, because we simply can't condition them to provide more parking. So I think that gives us our stopgap.
To put on the table?
Yeah. Just
Councillor Martin.
that there is a requirement under the Act for us to provide conditions. They don't have to be the final planning conditions, so as long as we provide a condition. But a vote here is not a development refusal. So that is the
that's correct. We're refusing the development application.
Yeah, but that still is not the document that is issued. So the vote is not actually the refusal document which is issued.
I would probably suggest if we could just lay this on the table for morning tea, and we'll get the words as close as we can, and we'll enable you to actually provide.
Okay, so I move to put the item on the table until we can have further discussion around the appropriate wording. All councillors in favour? The motion is carried. The councillors against? Okay, the motion is carried 6-1. Okay, moving on to our next item, which is 11.3, planning scheme amendment, short-term accommodation. I'm going to move this one. Second, Councillor Wright. Director McGaffin, would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Council would be aware that a previous amendment came to council with several sites where low density zones were appropriate or potentially appropriate for short-term accommodation, and they were identified by MAC, so it wasn't the entire low density zone, but certainly a component of it. And that was under a set of criteria that was favoured for tourism close to the coast and things like that. So one of the aspects that came through the state interest review is what was the implications for Cannavale Beach. It was discussed previously, but it didn't make it onto the list that council had adopted. So the purpose of the discussion today is to say to the council, are they of the mind to include Cannavale Beach into the area to promote short-term accommodation or not. It targets the low density zone. Council has already, as Councillor Bowman has outlined, strengthened some of the planning scheme so that it is stronger in refusing or stronger in not encouraging short-term accommodation in the low density residential zone. And there's a variety of clauses and things like that that the strategic team have been talking to the state planners so that when it does, if and when it does go through, there aren't too many hold-ups. So strengthens the scheme and we have identified some precincts. My skills are at 4. This is just a quick status update, Mr. Mayor. August 24th, Council resolved to make the amendment. We have been negotiating with the state. There's been some fine-tuning of some information, fine-tuning of some terms that hasn't changed the intent of the amendment, but it has resulted in a fair bit of negotiation. What's holding it up at the moment, the state has put a pause on the amendment pending the outcome of Council's deliberations on the Cannavale Beach area. Once that's known, we'll go back to the state and say this is the Council's resolution as far as Cannavale Beach. We would like to think that they would then say, okay, the state interest review will come back. It'll come back to Council to say, do you want to go to public consultation on this? Next one, please, Matt. Again, this is the process that the team has followed. There's been ongoing consultation, negotiation with the state. Thanks, mate. So the state in particular asked for more justification for the precincts that council had already identified. Some consistency about terminology and some planning talk about the inclusion areas and things like that. They did take some time to discuss what might have been the unintended consequences of the amendment, and the aim was to think about those, analyse those and say, is there anything else needed in the amendment to stop and prevent those unintended consequences? There was some mapping to be adjusted and some improvements to the mapping that are very technical with our GIS people and our strategic planners getting together to discuss that. So that's the area of Cannonvale Beach that we're looking at. So this is a particular one. The area that we're presenting to council with a recommendation to adopt as a precinct is in the right-hand map shown in purple. On the left-hand side, you can see the darker salmon, depending on how colour conscious you are. The salmon colour is currently zoned low-medium density, and it's the lighter pink that is the low-density zone. So what we've suggested is to concentrate the area close to the coast, the Coral Esplanade and the top of Stewart and Palm streets are high and get a good visual display over the bay. We've had to draw a line somewhere, so the council does have the ability, if it wishes, to reduce the area or increase the area. The area is really the low density residential zone because we're not touching the impact of short-term accommodation on the low medium zone. So that's why on the right-hand map you've got pink, purple, sorry. That's the area we're suggesting be added for the Cannonvale Beach area. I think that's it, except for this one. This provides the location of approvals issued and the existing operators there. You will see that there are a couple of approvals issued outside the area we're suggesting and recommending. Again, council can increase that area or reduce that area depending on their will. And we'll just give you some statistics on short-term accommodation. So the recommendation is the council at Cannonvale Beach precinct on the basis that it fits very consistently with a lot of the other precincts that council's already identified.
Thank you, Director. Look, I think on this one here, it's important to note that we're voting to include this particular area within the planning scheme amendment. We're not actually voting to turn it into an STA area right now. So I think, I think the type of usage there is consistent with being a tourism zone, and I think that's only going to grow into the future. So I think we should be looking at, at least going to that community consultation phase to be informed by what needs to be down there. At the moment, I think in that immediate vicinity, you've got some medium density or low medium density there that's advertising tourism experiences, those types of things. You've got some obviously some commercial there around the corner as well as some of the amenities that come along with Cannonvale Beach, which I think is an area that as we grow is going, we're going to have to put more effort into and continually improve that as being a key precinct within our region. So I think on those grounds I'm supportive of including that area in this amendment. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree, Cannonvale Beach is a wonderful spot, but it is our last residential beach. Several people have reached out to me from Stewart Drive and that area. I think a number of the SDAs that have gone through there, the majority of them have been tabled because of adjoining residences' submissions. First off, I think we've just discussed the issues that come with things like Stewart Drive, that is a narrow cul-de-sac with limited parking, steep blocks, and an issue for parking and for that density of short-term accommodation in that area. So I feel I don't want to go all the way through to public consultation to get those same submitters coming back to us and us having to go back to square one. That's part of my issue with it. The majority of Coral Esplanade is long-term residents. The motivators for these areas were based upon historic short-term holiday letting. There's only been one house within that whole area that has come through under previous use for approval. So it's not a historic area of short-term accommodation, it's historically a residential area. My other problem with where we are in this part of the process is that the changes to the planning scheme removed the requirement for low density areas to remain predominantly dwelling houses. So we've now removed a 50% cap on these areas if we move forward with how this is today. I'd like to propose that even if we let Coral Esplanade in there, we looked at removing Stewart Drive and Palm, and that we look at adjusting our overall outcome to actually include a cap on the number of dwellings within these precincts that can become short-term accommodation. There would be a step back while we're with the state government to do it, but if we go past this point, we wouldn't jump back a few months. It may be 2 years to go through this process again. So the amendment is with you. I'm open to the discussion and debate on the entire area of Cannonvale being included and going out to the public for that consultation. But I would like you to consider that if we did propose something here today, that we include the council reintroduces the term predominantly dwelling houses into the low density residential zone code, and that we actually include the wording. I've got something here which actually changes overall outcome to that we adjust the wording to introduce a 25% cap on the short-term accommodation dwellings within the areas that we're proposing today. That would be 1 in 4 houses can go to short-term accommodation, but the moment that you're within this zone, it is just not open slather, that we lose these entire places to being holiday resorts and no longer parts of our region.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sort of agree with you on capping, but I think it's already got to the stage in places like Chute Harbour where 1 in 5, where 20% of the residences are short-term accommodation. The other issue is that while we're allowing these things to proliferate, no one's going to come into town and build us a nice hotel. I mean, we're cutting off our own nose to spite our face, and I'm not sure how many, but I think on Seek and what have you, there's hundreds of these things in Airlie Beach. And, you know, and why Cannonvale Beach? Because it's a beach? Well, then why don't we open it up to every beach that we've got around the place, you know, Rose Bay, wherever else. You know, we've got to pull it back.
I think we have included Rose Bay. I'm pretty sure.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
It's not
Wash you anything, you know, just all seems to be.
I can speak that again.
Councillor Finlay, first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of matters on this one, and probably to the Director. Yeah, if we vote this, we don't vote to approve this, and go out to public consultation, and there's lots of residents from the Cannonvale Beach area that put a submission in to say, yeah, we want this included in there. So they're able to do that. And I guess likewise with any of those other areas that we've got in the proposal, if we get enough consultation to come through and say, well, we don't want that in our area, then that's up to the council to make that decision later on. Obviously, it probably has some impacts about the whole process, but that is the reality of it. The other question comes down to is the restricting of the number of, yeah, and I'll take the point to Councillor Clay, Councillor Jen, but I just wonder the legalities of that, and really that's more like a business decision. We can't prevent having 4 news agents in our town or anything like that. It comes down to a business decision. I'd like to get advice on...
Can't have 10 pubs across the line?
That's correct, Mr Mayor. I'd like to get some, if we were going to go down that way and putting a restriction on numbers, I'd like to get some advice on that, whether or not we actually could legally do that. Because to me, it seems like more of a business decision. But yeah, I'd like to... if the Director would like to comment on my first part of the question.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for my experience would say it's easier for council to go to a public exhibition with a proposal and based on submission say, okay, we don't want that anymore. You can also do, as Councillor Bowman was suggesting, not go to public exhibition, and if you do get submissions from people to say we want it, you then need to start from scratch again. So as far as time frames, it's preferred to go to exhibition with something that you're not sure about, and if the submissions concentrate your approach to it and you remove it, so be it. That is a shorter process than having to go through effectively 2 amendments that would stretch it out several years, as Councillor Bowman suggested.
Director McGovern, just to the second part of Councillor Finlay's question, like the legalities around a cap or the mechanics of a cap, like what does that look like?
That's a really good question, Mr Mayor. The issue at the moment is that there's no science behind it. There's no justification behind it. We'd be happy to take that on board and prepare some background research and information about what the implications might be. Look at what's happened earlier. The question will undoubtedly be, why 25, why not 20? Why 20, why not 30? So there needs to be something behind it for us to be able to say, this is the reason that we want to put a percentage on it and have that thought through and debated before it's introduced into the amendment.
So could we go through that process in the follow-on to this before it's finalised, or do we?
My comment would be no. If you wanted to introduce a percentage into this, as Councillor Bowman said, you're going to have to go back, you're going to have to start again. We would need to research it and come back with a scenario why 20 was better than 25, which wasn't as bad as 30. That type of thing, to be able to show that we put our mind to it and we have an understanding about what the implications might mean in a land use sense and an amenity sense. At the moment, we haven't turned our mind to that.
Councillor Clifford.
Thank you. I believe that Noosa's put some kind of control over the number and location, etc. I think Councillor Clay has got more information on that than I have.
I had Councillor Clifford for the next comment. Right. Councillor Wright. Councillor Wright. Councillor Clifford. Sorry. Councillor Wright.
Whatever. Yeah, sorry, through the mayor. Just a question. Just going back to that last item with the development application that came in for current present. If that was in that the coloured area, that's okay for short-term accommodation. How does that actually come back to council for a decision? Like, even though not all properties are suitable, but how does that work? Like, if it does go through.
Okay, yes, through Mr Mayor. At the moment, the protocol is that if an application receives a submission, it comes to council, and that would be the case.
Does it strengthen, like, their application though, like having the zoning?
having the zoning or being in an area which the previous one does strengthens their position. Now, just a quick word on what strengthen might mean. At the moment, we're at the very beginning of the amendment process, so council's identified all of these areas, but it hasn't gone far down the food chain. So council's still got a couple of opportunities to veto it, change it. So my comment would be, if the previous one goes to appeal, the strength that we put, or that they will put in the amendment, would be very weak. Okay, because it really hasn't gone far through the process. A really interesting step is always the community consultation to get an idea what the community is saying, and then what is the council's response to those issues that are raised. We haven't gone through that, and we are quite a way off that, even if we continue through the current process.
Councillor Clifford first. This is
Just
probably the last one.
Yeah, that's fine. Through you to the director. So if we change the colour on that, there's no notice has to go up, so therefore the neighbours really wouldn't know what was happening. There's no board has to go up, like on current present with material change of use. If we change the colour up there, then you say, oh, you get a submission. How would the person down the street know that anything was happening?
Well, they would then be affected by the operation of the premises, but there would be a sign to go up, because that is part of not only the planning controls but also the local law control. So there will still be the identification.
That's after the fact.
Yes.
I'm happy to put this section in and go through the public consultation and let it run its course with the state review process, and it probably speed the whole process up rather than put it out, take it out now and put it back in later on, whatever, so I'm happy.
Councillor Bowman, last one.
Yes, thank you. I would like to say that this point is the easiest to include a cap. We didn't have open discussions of why the word predominantly was removed from the overall outcome. So we've removed the 50% cap, which you think would just be extraordinary in any case. When I try and work out the numbers for us, we're somewhere about 10 to 11% of dwellings within Airlie Beach. Shute Harbour's at 20% of constructed dwellings, not vacant land. Noosa, I think, worked out 17.6%, and that's where they are really, really strongly reacting to try and curb the stem. That's why I proposed 25%, because that sets the limits now where we know that there's nothing there. I think that might need to be developed in the case with the state, but we've got tourism documents, we've got economic development documents that say we want more purpose-built accommodation. If we leave it open slather, even within these restricted areas, which investors are going to come in here and know they're not under long-term competition from short-term accommodation in dwellings under cover? So that's why I would support going out to the community, even with Cannondale as it is bound, but I urge you to consider an amendment to include this cap to be consideration.
Any comments around capping? Councillor Finlay?
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to, is that a separate issue to what we're actually dealing with here?
Yes.
Because that's what I'm thinking. I think we're actually talking about putting precinct areas in to...
Separate but related.
Yeah, but then the capping is a separate issue. And like, the capping would not be part of this consultation, would it? Through
Through experience, it's up to council. My comment is if the council want to introduce a percentage cap, we're going to have to go back to the beginning and turn our mind to the benefits of whether it be 25, 20, 30 or what. And there's a lot of time that will take. Whereas at the moment, what we're saying is do you want to include this area, yes or no? Do you want to make it less? Do you want to increase it? Let's move ahead with that amendment, and we can deal with the capping at a later date, because it is related, but it is separate to what we're here to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Haswell. Any further comment on that related matter? No. Well, I think we're done on this one. The motion that Council endorse the addition of Cannonvale Beach as an STA precinct to the short-term accommodation amendment package, which we've already adopted previously on attachment 11.32, for that amendment to go through to the state. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Okay, the motion was lost, 3-4. Councillor Bowman recorded division.
Can I request no division, Mr. Mayor? I'll request no division, Mr. Mayor.
Did you want to vote again? Are you happy with the vote?
I'm happy to vote, but I don't need to, we don't need that division.
No. Well, I think once it's requested, it's in, isn't it? So, yeah.
He can be recorded.
For the motion,
Could be under.
4 was myself, Councillor Wright, and Councillor Simpson. Again, it was Councillor Clifford, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Collins, Councillor Finlay. All right. 4 against. So 3, 4 against. Tongue twister.
So you actually have no motion now?
Yep.
No motion.
Hang on, Mr. Mayor, clarification. Don't we just go back to the original motion that we have already held in the books from whenever we proposed to go out? This is just that, amended to that, and we're just saying no.
It was an addition, yeah, so we've just said no to the addition. Yep. So we don't need an alternate. Yep. Okay, we're moving on. Item 11.4, Australian Cruise Ship Association Conference.
So moved.
Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Finlay. Director, would like to speak to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the paper report up today that's seeking Council's consideration to allow us to submit a bid to host the 2026 Australian Cruise Conference. So what that event is 100 members within the cruise industry, along with presidents of major shipping companies around the world, come and spend 3 days in the destination. We have a conference, speak about what's going on in the industry, but for us to host this event, we're also putting forward a range of tours and essentially a site inspection destination. So I think when I read Council last week, we spoke to the fact of putting together optional tours where a bus ride to Bowen, where the Flagstaff Hill facility will be pumping and going really well, and into Cross Pines to try and get the benefits of cruise to push into the region. At the moment, they see Airlie Beach, they don't see the whole region, so that's the reason for this. They're seeking a $10,000, we're seeking a $10,000 cash contribution, and in kind of $2,000, also the use of the ship harbour or return. So when you look at the cruise industry, $55 million per annum is invested into Main Street. We make that $7 million, which is to other parts of the region. I think it's a great result for council. So that's what this report is seeking today.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this is a great opportunity for us, and particularly with the predatory behaviour of our near neighbours at the moment, trying to divert everything from Mackay to Townsville. I think we really need to strut our stuff, and thank you for bringing this to us.
Councillor Finlay.
That's actually a great initiative, and absolutely amazing to have the world come to that part of the region. I also think it's probably a great opportunity through the Director Craig that we're getting feedback from these guys that have obviously cruised all over the world as well, so that we can build on the experience of the Airlie Beach and the Whitsunday region as well.
Yes, and that's actually sharing. I ship harbour with what we're providing the cruise ship services. They're actually looking to actually reduce the calls to the office on and actually overnight stay on Sunday. So we are getting a good name for delivering great service and providing great tools and facilities.
Yeah, that's great.
I agree. Yeah, look, I think good opportunity, and I think we're developing a really good name in this space. So I think that adds to it further. I guess just one question from me. Carrying on from Councillor Clifford's comments. I think there's obviously quite a bit of competition in this space. So I guess has the department considered anything regarding a cruise ship strategy? That we've got obviously initiatives like this, but other initiatives to really strengthen our presence in that industry.
So we are a platinum member of the Australian Cruise Association. We're one of three. We speak with Gillette, CEO of the ACA, around what they're doing with regards to other destinations. We've expressed concern about essentially cannibalising the industry rather than growing. Having a ship stop in Mackay to then come to Airlie, I don't quite understand what that would add to an itinerary. So we're advocating with the ACA. I think given we've got almost 100 ships around, there probably is a need for a cruise ship strategy where we don't want to overload the destination. So how do we actually manage those people through the main street of Airlie, the services, the toilets, the lagoon? It's definitely an industry one. To your point, so it's probably a piece of work to be done there to be strategic about how we grow that industry sustainably.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. I think this is a great thing. Anything where it can flow over into the whole region, I think it benefits all of the local businesses within Bowen, Proserpine, Collinsville, if they've got time to get out that far, I hope so. But I really do think that this is, it's worth pursuing, and I look forward to what they sort of come up with.
Any further commentary on this, councillors? Okay, the motion that council authorise the CEO to submit a bid for the Australian Cruise Ship Association to hold their conference in line with the financial sponsorship in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.5, ramped up skate event 2025 and 2026. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Finlay. Director, would you like to speak to the matter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the paper from Council today is a continuation of the event that we supported last year. So that is a sanctioned Australian skate event that occurred at the Cannonvale Skate Park. There's also an event at the ramp at Shoe Harbour, separate to and then there was a skate event at the skate park here, or the roller in Bowen. So what we're looking to do with the ED events team is look to try and find events that bring people to a region. We have a standard 3-year funding agreement. After 3 years they can't run the event sustainably, we don't give them more money. So we reduce our funding, so first year was 20,000, we're seeking 15,000, then 10,000. What we're doing with that event though is pushing it further afield. So we are looking to have an event in Proserpine and also another event which we pick up in Bowen. Last year, timing was tight, we didn't get enough marketing, we didn't do as much as we could. So this year what we did was really get in early, got footage from last year, go and drive this event, market it to get greater value. The return on our spend, for every dollar that we spend, we're getting $38 back. That's forecast through our ED numbers. So it's a good event. It touches a lot of people, young kids right through professionals, and also brings families. So the event's for 3 days. We expect to stay 5 to 7 days, make it a holiday, one competitor with a family of 4. So that's the premise of this event. And again, it's really focusing on making ED events drive economy, as opposed to Julie's team where it's more focused on that community benefit. So that's the difference, and that's why we're putting this forward.
Thank you, Director. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Craig. Just in relation to that, there was the event last year. Lots of people down there, 600 odd plus. Just for those numbers on the economic impact, that was actually based on last year's, as explained in this report. But we did get $38 return on the 20,000 investment.
And the forecasting from the event organisers is substantial. Look at the numbers. I hope that they're right, but certainly it's about a threefold increase in competitors and also visitors, so and we'll be holding them to, these are the KPIs, I should say. So in the event they don't reach those, we can put in countries where we maybe the third year isn't the funding to a degree, so.
Further comment? The motion the council approve the financial sponsorship to Pacific Action Sports for the ramped up event in 2025 for 15,000, 2026 for 10,000, plus in-kind support both years 2,000. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, item 11.6, donation sponsorships in kind requests and grants December 2024. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Collins. Director Wright, you want to run us through this one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I'll take this as read. It's basically the funding and the grant donations for last December 2024. Junior Elite Athlete grants, we had 3 approved and totaling $750. Donations, there was 3 approvals there, totaling $2,072. 2 sponsorships approved, totaling $7,000. 2 sport and rec club grants, that's a total of $3,000, and a donation on council fees. There was just the one for that for $151. Thank you, councillors.
Questions, comments? Just question on the one to the Proserpine show, Director, what was the, I think that one sort of, is that early this year or is that?
Yes and no, but we like it, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so we've had over the past, with the Frosty show, they've often been a little late, so we actually had a little chat, and it's great that they're early, so it lets us know where we're going. I don't think Bowen's will be very far away at this point in time either. So, thank you.
Councillor Finlay?
Just clarification on that. So that donation to the Proserpine show, is that untied? Like, that's not for the fireworks? No. So the fireworks request could be a separate request later on? Is that how that works?
The fireworks, councillor, is just it's what we do for each of the, different. So there's fireworks for Posse, there's fireworks for Bowen, there's fireworks in Collinsville, and that's Melbourne Cup Day. So, but extra fireworks like we had on Australia Day down at Airlie, that's a whole different ball game. But these are just a given, the show fireworks.
Yeah. Do they have to put the submission in?
I'm sorry. I definitely request a donation for assistance, and they mention the fireworks in it as well. So when they send in,
so it's another application.
Yeah, as long as we know that they want to actually do fireworks.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything further on this report, councillors? Okay, the motion that council note the financial support across the categories listed in the report, I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item, where are we? 11. We might break for morning tea on that note. I think move to adjourn for morning tea. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we'll resume from morning tea at 10:58 a.m. Just before we get started, Director Bradshaw, you had some commentary just regarding the petition.
Yes, I did, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to clarify, and thanks to Councillor Bowman, just confirming that the first petition that we received was for Council to refer that to the CEO for consideration and for a report to come back to Council. Just clarifying that a report is coming back to Council as a result of that petition, whereas the other petition's just been tabled for receipt. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the other item that we discussed earlier, 11.2, so I move to set aside the standing orders and bring that off the table. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Do we need to discuss that any further? Are we happy just to go straight to the motion? Do you have anything?
We voted on it, but I did email through to the Director of Governance and Madeline for some conditions. If you want me to speak to it, there is a specific overall outcome of achieve acceptable levels of access, convenience, efficiency, and legitimacy for all transport users. So I think that's something we could agree with, that there's an issue there.
Sorry, should that read eligibility, Councillor Bowman?
Eligibility, legibility.
Efficiency and legibility. What does that mean?
I didn't write the claim scheme, I'm just quoting it.
Can someone explain to me what that means?
Legibility is basically, are you able to understand exactly where you need to go?
Go where you need to, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone okay with that reasoning there?
Yep.
Any commentary? Okay. All right. We have another mover there. Did we have a mover there?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Sorry. Okay. So back to the motion. The council refused the development application for short-term accommodation at 22 Cara Crescent, as per the reasons outlined in the report for refusal. Put the matter to the vote. The motion to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried 5-2. Okay, jumping back to where we were before morning tea, which was item 11.7, renewal of trustee lease for Giradala Community Cooperative.
Mr Mayor, just to clear up, quite a conflict of interest on a manual for elected partners in business relationship with Giradala.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, can I have a mover? Councillor Wright. And the seconder, I'll second the motion. Okay, we have this with you, Director Bradshaw. Would you like to speak on that item, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you have in front of you a renewal of lease for Giradala Community Association for what is their office or facility that they operate out of. We're seeking to put before Council a 10-year lease to renew an existing lease that was already in place. The second part of the recommendation seeks to provide some clarity in relation to the future use of the whole of the land. Now, if I could just have the report up to show the diagram map that relates to the parcels that we're talking about. There are in fact four separate areas contained within the same parcel for which the lease operates, and the second part of the recommendation is really to empower us to seek to make those individual parcels as we move forward to provide some clarity in relation to the lease and the use of those individual parcels. The lease is proposed to be in Council standard terms and conditions over the 10-year period. I'm happy to take any questions Council might have in relation to it.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just in relation to this, I know they have actually requested a 30-year lease. I'm supportive of the 10-year lease. I know they do have some hurdles that they're working through at the present time, but just wanting to ask, they do have some plans for the future, and to be able to get grants of a large nature to do build different properties and that sort of thing. How do they go about doing that with a 10-year lease? If it does come available and they are successful, or they're looking at putting in like a large grant, will this come back to council so we can discuss further lease options?
So, under the current rules, you can only give a 10-year lease if it's actually not a whole block, if it's a part of a block, because it's actually a subdivision required. What we've suggested is to do a 10-year lease, to start the second part of the motion, starts the subdivision, to actually subdivide that off to make it into one block, and then we'll be coming back to the council and seeking your guidance as to how long a term we may wish to provide the lease for. So we are dealing with that issue, it's just a two-stage process.
Okay, further comments, questions, councillors? Councillor Bowman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think Iradella's doing a good job. Got some outstanding rates here asking to be paid over this, but just on a wider scheme of things with the second part of the resolution to look at the rezoning, I wouldn't be one to say Bowen's short on parkland, but once you get back from the foreshore into the entire grid of the CBD, we have this reserve and the Bowls Club. I know the council owns some land there. I'm just thinking long-term development, and probably as a comment towards the CEO's assessment of this area is, you know, what other reserves do we maintain before we divvy all this up and just end up with a few unused basketball courts there and have no reasonable reserve land? So in the long-term establishment of Ghirardelli, if they are going to upgrade to entirely new buildings, just make sure it's the right use and the right zoning, and that we have the reserve land we need in the future with Bowen's development, because realistically, this is our last pass of reserve land. Thanks.
I think council, when looking at any of the reserve land, needs to carefully look at what is the current use, what is the future use, what is the long-term use, and that second part of the resolution enables us to definitely have a look at all of these 4 parcels and have a clear direction of where we're going to go in the future.
Thank you, councillors. Okay, the motion that council authorise the CEO to enter into negotiations for a 10-year peppercorn lease with Ghirardelli Community Cooperative, and also to undertake a review of the land parcel as per the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Someone please let Councillor Finlay back in the room. Welcome back, Councillor. Item 11.7 was carried. Item 11.8, preferred pre-qualified panel arrangement for plant and equipment hire.
Mayor, same field.
Prescribed conflict. Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover, please? Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Collins. Director Bradshaw, would you like to
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, we did walk you through the process related to this item coming forward for consideration by Council with the establishment of the wet and dry hire contracts as proposed for a 2+1 potential 3-year period there in relation to the supply of plant equipment to Council, both with and without operators. This report, as you may remember from previous presentation, is the culmination of a period of months' worth of work across the organisation and a range of engagement with suppliers and the broader public in relation to providing access to the supply to council essentially plant hire equipment. The recommendations before you list the successful tenderers in relation to what's proposed against each of the suppliers for services that they've offered to council. This has been a lengthy and detailed process. The recommendation is lengthy in itself. Happy to propose the recommendation as it is to council and to answer any further questions that may be available in relation to the matter that's proposed. And I'd just like to take the opportunity as well, Mr. Mayor, to recognise the contribution of the staff and the numbers of staff involved in bringing this report forward through the contracts and procurement branch.
I'll add to that, Director. I think from what I can see here has been a fairly considered and thorough process. I think certain elements there really taking into consideration the uniqueness of our region, particularly the distance in some of our locales and what is a good fit for what those requirements are. It's been really well done. And also I think some of the commentary that we'd spoken to previously around, making sure, anyone that wanted the opportunity to participate in this process was aware of it, and there was communication around that fact. So hats off to the officers involved. Any further comment? Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Totally agree, a lot of work's gone into this, totally support us maintaining the 10% weighting for local suppliers, so that we're ensuring that millions of dollars that flow through these contracts are actually being offered up to local services, suppliers and business owners and employees where possible. The regulation talks about the conditions and being able to maintain the performance of people and their ability to be removed from here. Like we do have with our donation sponsors, other people, like if somebody has an outstanding fine to council or an outstanding debt, is that their listing as it is proposed here today?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bowman. That would form part of the final checks that we undertake. Generally, for suppliers to council, we have an awareness if they actually owe council money as well, because there'll be a number of contractors where we manage that process internally through council, but generally we would ensure that any outstandings are paid as part of the ongoing process. Should that be the case, required with the contractors that have been listed in the attachment.
Thank you. Councillor Rock.
Thank you. Just to quickly follow on from the Mayor, just personally, I do know that the team have done meetings in all of the towns, so Proserpine, Collinsville and Bowen, I think, is that everything? And multiple attempts and multiple emails to, look, we need as many suppliers on this list as possible. So just thank you very much for all your hard work in putting this together. Thank you.
The motion that council award the contract as per the report to the listed suppliers for a 2-year contract period. For all of the contractors, because there's plenty, but we'll take it as what's in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Please let Councillor Fenway back in the room. Welcome back, Councillor Fenway. Previous item 11.8 was carried. Item 11.9, sole source supply listing 24-25. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Clifford. Director Bradshaw, would you like to touch on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, we do at points during the year bring forward this report in relation to sole and specialist suppliers. The report's somewhat mechanical in that we use the provisions within the legislation to ensure ongoing procurement efficiencies The list generally represents proprietary or, specialist equipment or services that relate directly to parts of council for which a normal procurement process would be disadvantageous in terms of its efficiency, and or there may only be one supplier. And some of the cleanest and easiest examples around key pieces of software that the organisation uses. We're wedded to those organisations generally for the maintenance and performance of those particular systems. There have been some additions and amendments to that report. The table that's listed in the attached schedule represents the current and complete list of all of those preferred supply arrangements. It also provides that opportunity for our commercial entities and our utility providers to deal with the proprietary providers of specialist services to those particular areas and keeps that efficiency in our procurement process. Happy to take any questions on that.
Questions or comments, councillors? Okay, the motion that council resolves that it's satisfied with the suppliers listed as sole source suppliers within the report, and also delegate authority to the CEO to enter into contracts. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.10, monthly finance report.
I would love to move the highlight of our meeting.
Moved Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Wright. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to the
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you have before you the monthly finance report for the period to the end of December 2024. Whilst these are the accounts that we've prepared for the half year, it is to be recognised that officers will be bringing forward for consideration a second budget review. That's likely to be around the March timeframe, based on the information that we've got in these reports, but also our awareness for what the spend capability has been over the balance of the financial year. In the current reports, it continues to reflect a stable financial position for council. We do recognise that through budget review 1 that there was an adjustment to the operating budget that currently shows a deficit position. We'll continue to work on that and the timing and transactions that occur through the financial year to help mitigate the impact of that deficit and what it might look like between now and the end of the financial year if we are unable to return that to a surplus position. Generally, the revenue is in line with the targets that we have been set. Certainly, we've been fortunate to be able to earn additional interest revenue, but as the interest cycle changes and we continue to spend our capital works program, that cash availability starts to diminish, and so the interest on investments will diminish as well. We'll continue to manage that. The capitalisation in the asset base continues to grow. You can see through the community wealth graph there on page 131 of the agenda. At this point in time, we're looking close to a net community wealth position of $1.4 billion. There'll be ongoing capitalisations that increase the value of our asset base over time. We continue to look for those best returns in relation to the funds that we have under investment, and we'll continue to work hard on that through the balance of the financial year. Preparations are underway for the delivery of the second half rate levy. That's likely to issue in early February, so that will be publicised and those notices will be out. Staff are actually working hard at the moment on managing the impacts of splits, changes in valuations and additional properties coming on to ensure that those rate notices as sent out reflect the most accurate information we have to the properties right across the region, as much as that is practical. Generally, you can see the accumulated capital delivery is tracking. If we look at both the commitments and the actuals, we are starting to look towards a reasonable position halfway through the financial year, and those reports continue to be provided through the Director of Capital Delivery and Network Planning on a project-by-project basis. We will continue to and work with all the departments across council to manage the budget risks that we have identified, and we'll continue to report those as we discuss the budget reviews with council and as we enter into more detailed discussions on the development of the 25-26 budget. Happy to take questions, Mr Mayor, if councillors have any, but take the report as read.
Any questions on the monthly finance report? Councillor Finlay.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Probably talk like a question on notice to the Director, Jason, to the CEO. In the budget that we adopted for the 24-25 year, we were presented with a deficit of in the order of $10 million, which was funded by contributions from the water fund, the sewage, the airport, the quarry and waste operations to balance that up. Unfortunately, with the FAGS grant reducing by $1 million, we then faced another $1 million deficit to add on. In adopting the budget, we had two items in there which we basically used to balance the budget, and one was I can't quite remember the name of the items, but one was something to do with operational initiatives, and the other thing was savings in staff costs. So I do seek, as part of the budget review number 2, that we get updated on those two items in the budget to see where we're going. It's also to be noted, Mr Mayor, that due to the deficit, we actually did view the staff structure at the time, and there was going to be 5 new positions put up, but due to the deficit, we were unable to fund those 5 positions. So, yeah, I look forward to just getting the answers on those 2 items in the budget, as far as any operational initiatives and the staff savings as well. So we are tracking back to reining the deficit. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I'll take the question on notice. Councillor Finlay had given me prior notice. It will take a little while to create the detailed response to those, so yeah, we'll work on that.
Thank you. Shall we go to that, Mr CEO?
Working on it.
Okay. Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on page 129 of the agenda within our income and expenses, most of these things are in target. I've only had a chance to have a quick discussion with the Director of Capital, but just with our revenue and expenses in the capital part there running, down 47% of budgeted revenue, and we're sitting down at 24% of expenses. Is that just part of the scheduling and shift and correction towards BR2? I know we've already been bumping some stuff forwards, and it is the capital department, but obviously I have a concern about overloading next year's works program as well.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to respond. In relation to the first line, Councillor Bowman, the capital revenue, often that line relates to grants and subsidies from other levels of government. Now, the timing and conditions that attach to those grants may dictate when that money is received. So, in some instances, we receive upfront payments, maybe 50% of the total grant. In others, it's based on milestones. So, if you complete 30% of the work, you might get 30% of the money. So, it's not an exact science in relation to the grants and revenues, but we do our best to match those in there and reflect them against the expenses each financial year where we can. In relation to the capitalised expenses, there won't always be a direct correlation between what's shown in the actuals there, because from an accounting perspective, it's the capitalisation of those works into the asset register and into the asset values of council. So, as you might have heard through previous discussions with the Audit Committee, and Councillor Finlay has raised this in both his previous capacity on the Audit Committee as well as now, there will be a time elapsed period between when that work is finished and capitalised and when it actually flows through to the assets in the financial ledger. So, the money could be spent this financial year and the project completed, but not necessarily capitalised into the asset base. So if there's a road that Gary does for $1 million, we spend that money, the road is complete, there might be mapping or data that needs to flow into the asset register. That $1 million won't necessarily automatically go into the asset base for roads. it'll go into something that we call work in progress. So it's essentially a holding bucket, and then we'll take the money out of the work in progress and apply that back to the asset classification. So that bucket, if you like, because you've heard me talk about buckets, has been in the order of $90 million, and it takes us a little while as an organisation to pull that across. The work we're doing around our asset management maturity and the system work that we're doing at the moment will help us speed that up over time. I'm not sure whether Director Gary is looking to complement what I'm saying there or to provide any other commentary.
Oh, just to support Jason, yeah, you can't compare that part of the balance sheet to the documentation. And Jason's correct. The other piece is that if we do to go and do an improvement on an asset, you have to write the old piece off that hadn't reached end of useful life. And that's another piece of the process with the works in progress. And the asset team and the capital team and my asset owner, they all communicate on what that looks like. So you can have a massive amount of money sitting there that they're clearing all the time. But when you do a lot of capital work here, that balance can rise up for a period of time until we go and close it out. I would say that Jason's team's been doing an outstanding job at cleaning out historical, non-bringing into account of assets. And yeah, that number's getting smaller and smaller all the time with historical stuff, but it gets added to when we've got big capital programs.
Comments or questions, councillors? Alrighty. The motion the council received the monthly financial report, including the unaudited financial statements for the period ended 31 December 2024. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, item 12, late report items. There are no late reports. Item number 13, matters of importance. Do any councillors have any matters of importance I'd like to raise? Councillor Rock.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Collinsville Water Park was fairly severely vandalised. And I was just wondering if we could get an update. I just had a few members of the public just ask when it might reopen again and just where we're at with it, just for the public also.
Thanks, Councillor. Mr Mayor, councillors. Yes, a couple of weeks ago there was more vandalism. This time it was, it was the acid. So the acid can't be kept in the pump room. The acid is stored and locked into an area outside the pump room. That particular area was vandalised, locks were smashed, and the acid was stolen. That was in the wee hours of the morning. One morning it was about 2:30. I can't remember the exact date. We have footage and that sort of thing, and been reported. So first of all, we have to have that area fixed, okay? Given ongoing vandalism, which is continuous up there, we have, Rec Services have actually put in, we've got a temporary fence in. We're going to have a controlled entry point through the pool itself. The gate's already in for that. The fence is in, the fence is in, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if the weather holds, the concrete footpath will be finished from the sort of pool. There's maybe from, I don't know, here to the wall, the outside wall over there, to get people safely to the water park in the next 2 days. And as soon as that's done, we'll be ready to open again. And in the budget bids, I'll be open here, council. In the budget bids, we have actually put in a bid for a permanent fixed fence to continue with the controlled entry point. The only negative to that is that the folk in Collinsville that use the water park will only be able to use the water park when the same hours as what the pool is. So, but hopefully may reduce the vandalism up there.
Follow on from that, please, through the chair. Director Dooley, so the footage has been passed over to QPS. Can we sort of elaborate on that at all?
No, not really. I can't really say because it's it's been forwarded through, and what comes of that we just have to wait. to see, but the cameras, there is cameras up there, set all the time, so.
Thank you, thanks for that.
I think one thing I've flagged is to, I think early in the year, to get around and meet with all of our sergeants in our police departments. I guess from my perspective, I've seen definitely an uptick in crime and you know, some of this, you know, activity over the last 6 months. So I think I'm hearing various stories of obviously some of our police departments being quite understaffed, and I think that's a concern, particularly given the agenda of the new state government, which is to really try and reinforce law and order in some of these areas. And I think Collinsville's a prime example where, you know, we used to have 2 police officers, now we've got 1 police officer. You know, we're 8 short here in Bowen, 20 short at Early Beach. So yeah, I think understand that they have their own challenges, but we need to just to make sure that we're making them aware that we've got concerns around some of these things.
The other thing is, of course, Mr. Mayor, that there appear to be no consequences to anybody that does it. If you're under a certain age, you just walk away. The Christmas tree at Early Beach got vandalised, which you will well remember. I had the little darlings on video that somebody sent me, and the police officers said there's nothing we can do. And, you know, they should have to do some picking up rubbish on the side of something to pay it back. But at the moment, there are no consequences for anything.
Councillor Fenlon?
Good, Mayor, to correct Julie. Julie just wanted just for thought for when we put that budget bid in, I'm happy to approve it. Do we have security up there? Security controls, or that we outsource? So in the event that is it possible, rather than go through the pool area, that we fence off the water park and actually have an entrance, have a gate on it that could be shut, say at 6 o'clock at night or something like that, open at 6 in the morning?
There's a fence around it now, councillor, not high enough, of course, but. Pull the panels off, there's a gate, pull the panels off. With the controlled entry point, a little bit like the lagoon as well. So, there's so many safety positives around a controlled entry point. You know, the contract manager up there will know who's in that area. At this point in time, they don't, because they come in from the side. You know, the week before the acid was stolen, the latest was, well, let's ride our skateboard down the ramp. So you can only imagine what that's doing, you know, or they're throwing the glass bottles up into the buckets, smashes. And yeah, and so then the water tips, and once the water tips, then it goes, and then it's still going back through to be recycled, back through the chlorinators and all that, so everything gets trashed. Yeah. But that can all happen within like 2 minutes flat once they get in there, where this way Jenny and her team, they know who's going in, you know, and that way they know who's going in, they know the ones they've got to keep an eye on, basically, you know, and keep an extra visual eye on them.
That sort of leads me to, I guess, the next question too, because I know Collinsville obviously the pool shuts completely at night, so would we consider opening that the same as the Bowen and Proserpine pools? Maybe in the next budget?
Councillor, you mean actually open the pool?
Yeah, because if the Collinsville pool is shut, that means the water park will be shut for 3 or 4 months. Yeah,
and there'll be discussions with the contractor that has the contract now, because they're set now for just like the summer months to be closed for those winter months. Given the heaters now up and operating again, that's a discussion that we can have with them.
Through you, Mr. Managing Director. I gather that we know who the little perpetrators are. Can we ban people from the pool and water park? I don't know, just asking.
We believe we know who the offenders are. We actually can't, with the glass bottles and that, you know, like there'll be one, you know, there'll be an instigator of it all, okay? So what do? You can't ban that group, and five of the kids out of the group of 6 are all fine and telling him not to do it, but then he just, goes and does it. But then nobody's pointing the finger. The acid is a whole different world. That's starting to get a bit hardcore when they're stealing acid, because I'll let you think about what acid may be used for. But the other, with the kids, it's just sheer vandalism. That's what that is, and that's what's got to be stopped. And I honestly believe that if we can get, and so does the rec services team, if we can get a controlled entry point, that might nip it in the bud. And we've got to try something, So, and if it doesn't, maybe we're going to start to cost a little bit more for the water park, just to have somebody there observing, lifeguard, not so much lifeguard, but just somebody there observing what they're doing while they're in there.
Bouncer.
Pretty sad state of affairs.
Very sad state of affairs.
Okay, councillors, anything further, any other reports? No? Okay, on that note, we'll declare the meeting closed, 11:33 a.m. Thank you everyone for their attendance.